Hello there. So last time around, we basically threw away what could have been a title challenge for, well, the Constructors Team Championship. We're still in it for the Driver Championship with Contreras here, 397 points versus 383, with just 2 races to go. So we'll have to see how that goes. We did have some incidents, some crashes, and generally it has put us in, well, not the best situation parts wise. We had a fresh engine that we immediately destroyed. So yeah, we're gonna have a rough couple of races there, I think, because well, it's high deg for one, and Contreras has pretty bad smoothness. But on the other side, we have some points to go on here. As long as we score second, third places, we should be somewhat safe. So yeah, we have a little bit of a challenge on our hand. And let's be honest, the car is still very much the best car on the grid. No questions asked. First in everything, but dirty air tolerance. So I'm pretty happy with how the car is looking. But we have to keep in mind that we might do another season. But hopefully, yeah, we can still make something happen. And if we do another season, what I'm thinking is that we keep Contreras since she has done fairly well. Nyman hasn't done terrible work. Honestly, we might actually keep Nyman instead because of the higher smoothness. I'm a little bit undecided, but I think we're going to be promoting Sano. I think she will be quicker just on the basis that she has higher smoothness, higher pace stats, does have low control and accuracy, which does does result in incidents. But honestly, I don't think that should be too much of an issue. Maybe it will be, we'll see. But I think I'm willing to take that risk over the high smoothness, honestly, because that is just how important the smoothness stat actually is. Now, I do think that we'll have a bit of a better season next time around, hopefully. On the other hand, it'll also give the other teams a chance to kind of close the gap a little bit, and that too is worrisome. We have researchers going to, well, try and get a better run into the new year. But I think for the time being, our best bet is just going to be to try and do our best over these next 2 races. And if a miracle happens, we do a 1-2 times 2. Maybe, just maybe, we can pull out something. But honestly, Verstappen and Norris both are stable enough, I guess I should say that. I don't see that happening. Interestingly enough, Gasly is in 6th with Alpine. We have Stroll in 8th, Bottas in 9th, and Porsche in 10th. So it's been somewhat of an interesting year, honestly, just looking from the other team's perspective. But let's just get back into this. We're going to jump directly to Las Vegas and see if we can, well, get a good performance here and maybe, just maybe, keep the dream alive. So the dream is still somewhat alive, but there are doubts. Leclerc, Bottas both taking penalties, moving Verstappen up to behind Nyman on the 3rd row. And with Contreras in 1st, Stroll 2nd, Norris 3rd. It's going to be, we're going to need a miracle here, I think, in order to get the points that we need to keep the championship dream alive. But at least Contreras' dream is still ongoing, so to speak. Now, Vegas is very annoying in the sense that um, we have extremely high tire wear. So even running something like this is not necessarily going to work. And what I mean by this is a deg is hard to measure because we don't really know how much more aggressive deg is going to be. We could actually run out of tire by lap 18, for instance. That is kind of how massive the deg is. Probably going to be lap 20, to be fair. And even this, as you can imagine, then comes into a bit more of a riskier maneuver, so to speak. So I think this is the only thing we really can do. And it's going to suck massively because we can't really do anything else. An extra pit stop is going to take a lot of time. And even if we do an extra pit stop around this place, we're going to come out in traffic. There's just no way around it. We're just going to come out in so much traffic that it's not going to be worth it. So we're going to have to run attack for, again, probably just the first half a lap. I don't think we can afford much more than that. And then we're just going to have to try and nurse the tires throughout this race. And this is kind of why I think we've potentially made a bit of an error. Now, running the mediums on light could be a better choice than running the hards on light. But again, it's difficult to measure, but honestly, you can actually see it here. Running the mediums on light would be a better choice than running the hards on light. So I think that's just what we're going to have to do. Now, we could, of course, try and gamble on running a soft tire, but as you can see, medium, soft tire, when you're running the short distance, they're both equal. So there's no real benefits to doing this. The only thing we could gamble on would be, in this case, do something like this. But even that is going to be somewhat slower. So we don't really have much of a choice. We're going to do this. We're going to split strategy while having Contreras run ahead. Try and stay with the Red Bulls on the medium. Run light on the hard. And we'll do the reverse for Nyman. And we're just going to have to take a look and see how high the deck is. If the deck is very high on the mediums, we might turn these up to light as well. And how quickly we make that decision is actually going to be kind of vital to how well this race is going to go. But yeah, this is a difficult race because we don't, as I said, we don't have many options, I guess you could say, on tire strategy, and that makes it difficult. But for now, let's just jump in and see if we can salvage something from this kind of disappointing end to the season. We actually have Stroll on a soft tire, and the same for the Red Bull of Norris. That's going to make things a little bit interesting, I dare say. You can actually see Norris kind of already right up the behind, but Stroll keeps his second place, which is good. Russell is actually ahead of Verstappen, which also is awesome. So the start here is looking good for our team, but I think we are just already going to go ahead and turn it down because we have kind of already held our positions. Stroll versus Norris is going to be a bit of a hopeful fight there, but it looks like Stroll has already been bested potentially. Yeah, that's going to be a bit of a... Oh, we actually got back. Slipstream doing its job. But yeah, as mentioned here, this is going to be probably a bit of a rough race. Hopefully we don't have any lockups from the cars behind us taking us out. And honestly, Stroll running ahead of Contreras is not really a big issue. Once we get the RS on the next lap, if we can keep up, that will actually benefit us. So all in all, not a bad start here. Norris gets the overtake done too, which honestly is not a surprise either. The soft tires just are that much better. So yeah. We'll probably catch up them though towards the end of this stint, and even now we're still keeping up somewhat. So as long as we can stay in DRS of the soft tires, I say we come up on top. Now we are now in the phase where we are just going to take it a little bit slower. We're just going to maintain where we are, and we're just going to have to try and do our best when it comes to the pit stops themselves. And as I mentioned here, the entire field here is for the most part just one big DRS train. And if we did push these tires, we'd be pitting by lap 10, 12. And at that point, we'd be in trouble. Now, if Neumann and Contreras can DRS of each other to, break the gap to Verstappen, that would be good. But I kind of doubt that. So we'll just sit here. We'll allow time to pass. There isn't really too much we can do. And we'll see where we stack up once we actually get to the... I think we'll just keep Neumann and Contreras on the same strategy here. You can even see that thing that I was worried about, higher DEG. I did also forget to turn Nyman down. But right now, they're kind of pulling both in the same direction. So I'm fine with this currently, just running it like this. But yeah, degradation-wise, we're not looking super good. But we're going to run these mediums completely into the ground. We'll just have to decide when is the time that we do that, if we want to try and jump the others by getting in a little bit earlier. But honestly, we can't really afford to do that because we have so much higher DEG than anyone else. So we'll have to try and make the most out of these tires. We've had our first incident, and I'm a bit worried here for Nyman. But it looks like we have not gotten a safety car. It is Ocon, and that is none of our compatriots. Come together with the Haas, bit of damage to both cars. That does create a little bit of a gap in the DRS train, but not enough that we'll be able to safely pit, so not really a big incident. And unfortunately, as you can see, Nyman is just unable to hold on to a position and has been falling backwards here behind both Ferraris. But we're still ahead of Verstappen, so I think we can be happy. Contreras is back in first, and The question now becomes, do we want to try and use what we have left on these tires to create a little bit of a gap? But as you can see, degradation here is still high enough that I think lap 18 is probably where we're going to end up hitting, worst case scenario. So it's still a bit of a rough situation, but we'll do our best. We are getting increasingly closer to that first pit stop, and as you can see, Stroll should be pitting on this lap, I would assume. He did. So let's see where he comes out, because that's going to be a good pointer to where we're going to be coming out. So he came out behind that train. That's not a good thing, because he's now going to have to get through that train, because some of them will not be pitting for a while. Leclerc's also pitted. He came out even further back. So the question now is, can we do anything that would allow us to pit and get out ahead of Lawson? The gap is 4 seconds. So I do kind of doubt that it's going to be difficult to pull something like that off, for sure. But at this point, I still think that the best we can do is just try and get these tires as far as possible, and then make a decision from there. Norris, as you can see, has much better deg than Stroll did, so he's actually keeping up with our mediums. Our mediums is actually degging faster than his softs, and that is a bit of a problematic scenario. But I think we'll just go attack here now, and we're just gonna have to get in at the end of this lap. It is what it is. There's nothing much we can do about it. And for Nyman, I think we're gonna have her push on the following lap. Basically, they're running too close. I don't want to double stack. So I think that is just what we're gonna have to do. I also do want to try and push in now and get ahead of Norris into the pits if we can. And hopefully with that, be able to get out ahead of him, because he too should be pitting on this lap. That's kind of what I would expect. So yeah, you can see Norris follows us in. This is going to actually be a race in the pits, if you will. Norris got into his box before we did. Let's see how we do. 2 second stop. Did we get out ahead? We did, just barely. So we did also face through Porsche there. But honestly, this was a rather good stop, all things taken into consideration. And we will be running on light. Norris actually got held up quite a bit more than we did on pit exit. But yeah, running them light, getting them up to temperature is going to be the best we can do right now. And for Nyman, she is running with Russell and Verstappen. And we are going to get her in on this lap. And as you can see, we can't actually run the hards on standard because they'll die off before that. So that does make things a little bit more difficult. Let's just double confirm to be on the safe side. And I'll go ahead and just turn it to light right now, but that wasn't allowed to. Let's see if we beat the other Red Bull in the pits as well. I think we should. We have a fairly good pit crew on this save. Again, save is from before the pit crew changes, which is why. But yeah, we both did beat both Red Bulls. Came out actually ahead of Contreras. So far, the pit stops has worked out somewhat to our advantage, but the fact that Verstappen pitted later and came out ahead is a tad bit problematic. But yeah, as long as we can stay with this DRS train, I think we will be happy though. Like, if we have Nyman and Contreras stay with Verstappen, and then we'll just have to try and take care of our tires and make a move towards the end of the race. There's really no other way to play this if you want to have the tires, well, have functional tires by the end of this race. Let's see how this goes. Currently, though, we are basically running net P2, P3. Russell still has to pit. The gap there is 17 seconds, so we should come out ahead of him, or rather he'll come out behind us when he does pit. But he could have a bit of a tire advantage towards the end. But yeah, let's see how this goes. Norris is still stuck in a bit of a train, but yeah, Gasly is going to need to pit. But if Stroll can hold off Norris, that would be amazing. For now, though, we're just going to kind of sit where we are, relax, and see how we stack up when we get a bit closer to the end of this race. We're getting increasingly close to the end here, and we have kind of stayed in that same five-man. We have Stroll, the two Red Bulls, and ourselves. No danger from the Ferraris, unfortunately, and as it turns out, the Red Bulls have better tires than us, even though we've been running everything on light. And if you have a look here at Nyman's and also Contreras is estimated with a light run, Nyman with a standard run. So again, our light is their standard. Our standard is aggressive, basically in terms of tire deg. So in this simulation, we actually have a degree worse tire deg than the Red Bulls, if you will. Now, I could of course start turning up the tires and everything, but honestly, I'm fine with running in a DRS train for the time being. I'm probably going to regret this in a little bit, but we have been able to maintain somewhat high confidence, and I'm thinking that we are going to just try and use everything that we have on these tires, probably in the last 2.5 laps. Basically, we'll start in a lap's time the attack from here, and hope we'll just have to pray that the hards will be able to take the abuse that we're going to put on them. Now, Stroll is probably not going to be a threat because he has very low tires to begin with, but Verstappen has better tires than us, and that's going to make him a bit hard to fight. And the second he clears Stroll, we need to be there and clear Stroll with him. So 3 laps to go here, 43%. Again, I still think we need 5%-ish of tire a lap with these hards to be safe. So around the halfway point of this lap is when we are going to start pushing. So once we get to the next few corners, I'm thinking that is when we start to push the tires, and then we're going to start pushing the engine a bit later. I could, of course, have turned up Nyman earlier. I'm very focused on Contreras and her challenge, so that's a bit of an error from my side. Can we sneak by? No, we cannot. So Contreras is going to need to just have everything now on push because Stroll has been cleared. And what I assume is going to happen now is that Verstappen is going to be able to create a bit of a gap unless we get by basically immediately. So let's see what we can do. Can we clear Stroll? Not yet. Overtake aggression too high. We're going to be taking some risks now as Stroll actually fights back on the Red Bull. Can we follow Stroll? No, we cannot. I had a small hope that we'd be able to follow Stroll and kind of get that, get the follow-up there. Make an attack. There we go. I hope that we can stay ahead, and now we're going to also push Nyman up to high aggression. Because if she can follow our car past the Red Bull, we might be able to secure 1-2. There we go. It's a lap earlier than what I would have liked. If we did that on the final lap, that would have been beautiful. But that is that's good teamwork. We have Stroll between us. We don't really want to push too hard at the moment, honestly. As silly as that sounds, I think Stroll is still going to be able to get DRS here, and he will. So I'm thinking we turn both of these guys down to neutral. And the reason for that is very simple. We want Stroll to have DRS. He does have it, but he has been left behind. And I'm also going to tell Nyman here to don't fight teammate before the end of this race. Because again, the main fight here now is going to be the fight for the championship more so than anything else. I don't really want to take the risk also to slow down and get Stroll. I'm hoping that he will be close enough, but honestly, he probably isn't. So what we could do is turn everything down to balance and standard, just to see if he can close down that 10th or 3/10ths now before we get to the DRS detection point. And we're going to go ahead and gamble hard here on just keeping Stroll in this. Stroll actually has lost so much time now. I guess his tires are gone. Yeah, they basically are. There's no way we can really keep Stroll's tires alive with that, so I think we're just gonna marry our way to the goal now. We might actually put ourselves at risk now because Norris is gonna get DRS. Norris ahead of Verstappen is actually beneficial to us as well. Go on, Stroll. Be the champion. And also, we are going to have to ask Nyman here to not fight the teammate. But yeah, Norris does get the overtake done. Honestly, though, if Stroll holds stuff for Verstappen, I'll be happy. Doesn't look like that's going to happen, though. So don't fight your teammate. We're going to go both on attack here. It's still risky to do this right now, because Nyman is going to slow down potentially enough here now that the Red Bulls will be a danger. Go on, Stroll, win the drag race. Nah. That is unfortunate. Did Norris get her? No. Okay, it's a good race from us. We got the 1-2. Unfortunately, a 3 and 4 from the Red Bulls does put a damper on the celebrations. If I slow down a little bit earlier, potentially we could have kept Stroll still in it. But it is what it is. DeVries scoring points again. He's actually been pretty decent so far this year, I believe. But yeah, 1-2. We get the win. We push Verstappen down to 4th. And that should put us in a pretty healthy fighting for the championship. Unfortunately, no fastest lap for us. We didn't really... Honestly, if we fought for that, we wouldn't have tied to win. So I'd take this result, honestly. Now, Driver Championship then, we have a healthy 27-point lead for the final race, which actually means that the Driver Championship has been settled. We actually won it here. That's amazing. But the Constructors, we also ended up losing that because 16 points plus 32, 46. So if you wanted to have any chance of winning the Constructors, we would have had to keep Stroll in 3rd, I think. So yeah, that sucks. But at least we got the Drivers' Championship more or less sorted, I believe, unless my math is off. But we shall see. Now, I am also, as I mentioned earlier, going to most likely just do one more season here. I do think that we're going to have a fairly dominant car next year. As Nyman improves, we get the underfloor done. Murphy improves as well. But if we take a look at the board here and our research so far, the chassis is improving, particularly on the cooling and drag reduction aspects. We're kind of keeping it level on the cornering. The front wing got some improvements. We're going to be losing some airflow sensitivity, but that's not a big deal. We still need a little bit of airflow front to keep our cornering ability at its current level. The rear wing here, again, airflow sensitivity is not a big deal for us. Improvements in everything else we'll take with us. We have the side pods here, airflow middle, which is really the one we care about. Big improvement, 5%. Also improvement in the cooling, and of course the drag reduction, giving us more top speed. Underfloor, again, just the airflow sensitivity, general, just good improvements all around. And the suspension here, a little bit of lack in the airflow, just a very, very minor loss of 0.17%. So by the end of the year, I think we'll have research enough that everything will be better than on the current ES car, even with the losses that others will incur. So if we take that into the equation, I think we're going to have a fairly dominant car going into next year, even more so than this year. And hopefully, we'll have a few less incidents that, didn't steal too much away from us. Okay, so research benefit here, drag reduction loss, airflow sensitivity loss. That's actually inaccurate. It's just due to how the research is set up. Yeah, let's go ahead and research. Do we want to research another underfloor here? A little bit unsure. Use all of our CFD. The underfloor doesn't really suffer any losses, so what I'm thinking that we do here is actually focus a little bit on the chassis and side pods, get a drag reduction up for the next year, which of course would be neat. So honestly, I would like to focus on all 3 of these parts, so honestly doesn't matter though when you do that. If you keep the sliders in the middle, keep them where you want. I think we might just do this with a slight focus on getting that top speed up and running, and I think that will be fine. It's a very minor boost in all things taken into consideration, but it's going to help us next year. And we're going to be starting next year as we usually do with CFD onto the underfloor. So if it's lacking a little bit right now, if we don't focus research on it, that's fine. Everything passed inspection as well. I think the cars will hold together through Abu Dhabi, so we will not be wasting any more money there. But we'll be taking the triple payout from the sponsors alongside the double deduction if we should fail. That should be fine. And I think we are ready to basically just head into the last race of the season here. It'll be a bit of a good one, honestly, and it is a bit of a shame, as I mentioned, that we had those 2 problem-filled races that put us out of contention. But that is actually racing for you. How many championships has been ruined by either driver error or just incidents? Quite a few. So it is what it is. It is a shame. But there's always next season, and as I said, this one is kind of wrapping up a bit, so we'll probably do a more condensed next season, and I think that should be okay. With that in mind, let's just jump straight into the Abu Dhabi GP. So I'd like to announce that we had a terrible qualifying. As you can see here, Contreras 10th, Nyman 11th. So either these guys all got better cars, but looking at the penalties, I would assume it's better engines. Again, our engine is very close to the breaking point. There is a bit of a gap here in 4/10ths, to be fair, and basically 5/10ths to Nyman. But even then, this was not a good showing from us at all. Nyman also had in her Q2 runs, we ended up doing, as you can see, a fair amount of laps. Lock up in her first run, lock up in her second run, and just couldn't improve on her third and final opportunity. So couldn't get anything done there. And for Contreras, just couldn't perform better. And it happens, so we'll just have to take that with us. Now, Norris, Bottas, Russell, Leclerc, and Porsche are eating penalties, and depending on these penalties, we can, of course, get moved up fairly high on the board. But honestly, I believe where we're gonna end is already settled, so doesn't really matter much. If we check the boards here, can I check the current standings? I don't usually have to do this, so I don't actually know. But yeah. We could, of course, also go into the sponsors here and go for a position gain. So Contreras starts 9th and Nyman starts 10th. So we could say that Contreras is going to win. Nyman is going to come 4th or higher. Could do something like this. It would give us a bunch of extra money. But let's be honest, we're not going to do that because we don't need the extra money, really. So there's no need to take that risk, even if it would be fun. But yeah, I think we're just gonna get through this race. And once again, if I was a little bit unclear in the last race, what I meant with how degradation works for us. So let's use this as an example. If we were to run Contreras at light, this is what we expect is going to happen in terms of degradation. What's actually going to happen is this. So as you can see, if we take this one, move it a little bit. If we run this, we could expect to pit around lap 32. But the reality of the situation is that instead, we're going to be ending up pitting in lap 26 because we have just that much higher deg that our pace, even if we run it light, the degradation will be as if we ran it on standard. So that does make our life a lot harder. Now, I'm a little bit unsure if we want to do a two-stopper. I think we do. I think it's going to be the best thing available to us, really. And what I am thinking here is that we're going to run the soft tires on light. We'll have to, of course, figure out when we can actually pit, and it looks like this is going to work, so hopefully we can make that happen. Run the mediums on standard, into two softs. I think that's the best bet we can do for both cars, so we'll just have Nyman mirror what Contreras does, and I think that's going to be the best that we can do. Interesting to note, though, that even with the penalties, we just moved up one position for each of our cars. So a lot of the penalties are kind of just situated together, which is honestly okay. But since we're starting 9th and 10th, I'm thinking if we want to be a little bit cheekier with our strategy and say just push full out on a medium. If I remember correctly, hard set are basically useless. Let's see. Can't actually check just how aggressive the degradation is going to be, but I would assume lap 10. For these guys, for this, I would assume lap 25, which is probably a little bit risky, but you get the idea. It should be okay. I'm tempted to try this because we have a good pit crew, so we can handle extra stops. And by doing this, we should be able to kind of pit early, get out of traffic. We should still be able to overtake, but the main worry that I have is the DRS strain. And so we're kind of settled in anyways where we're going to finish. I would like to try that kind of risky strategy for Contreras. And I think for Nyman here, we're just going to stick with kind of what we planned and just make alterations as we go. But it's fun again to play with low smoothness because it does force you to use other strategies. Generally, in every other save, I feel like the strategies do become a lot of the same ones. Particularly when we turn up to difficult a little bit because you kind of need every edge you can get then. And even then, because we usually play weaker teams, with the exception of the recent has, it's kind of nice to just sit back and be able to mess around with strategy like this again. But yeah, we're going to try this for Contreras. I don't know if it's going to work, but honestly, as I said, there's no real pressure here. As we saw last time around, she's 27 points ahead of Verstappen. Maximum you can score in a race is 26. We're going to be 1 point clear no matter what happens. And the Red Bulls were 47 points ahead in the championship, which means that we can't catch them. Maximum we can score is 44. And we'd be reliant on neither Red Bull scoring points, which I'd say is unrealistic. So yeah. We are just going to have fun with this race. I think that's going to be kind of what we're going to be hoping for. But yeah, Alpine on the front row. Definitely different than how things have been going for them this season in reality. The 2024 season has been harsh on Alpine, at least to start. Yeah, and turn down risk because there's no reason not to. And we have capped our positions, which is good. Contreras, we are going to just run full attack and try the best with. Nyman, we're going to turn down immediately because we need to, again, protect those tires as much as possible. And do we actually have an attack that launched by Porsche? Did Porsche just do a double overtake? On hard tires?
Look at the McLaren driver here. The gap opens up for them.
Guess the train slowed down enough that he actually just could slinker in there. A little bit risky, but it's a good move, don't get me wrong. That's kind of funny, but Contreras is immediately coming back, which is what you would expect with a better car and better tires. But yeah, that was some move by Porsche. Oh, never mind. Went a bit wide and is now parked at the side of the road. Yeah. I guess the reality here is that she might end up not finishing this race. I still feel like they hopefully 24 this year's game fixes that, because let's face it, there's no driver that really just stays parked like that if they can drive up even off the road and rejoin somewhat safely. But I find it hilarious how quickly we close down the Rees. But yeah, we'll be working on getting Contreras back up. We'll be running this very aggressive strategy, see if it works that in the sense that we get some, jumps during the pit stops, get back up into the points. And for Nyman, we're just going to try and manage and see how this turns out. Let's see how we're looking once we get to our first or maybe even our second pit stop in Contreras' case. We are getting to the point now where Nyman is about to pit. And we might as well go ahead and turn it down to light, as she will be running that for the final 2 stints. But the mediums it did work out fairly well. Now, Contreras did end up pitting and, well, is hunting for position, which is kind of what we expected. We have some soft runners behind us, but generally we have been able to regain a little bit of that lost confidence. But we're still low, so we're still running a bit of a risk in that regard. But we're still going to try and get that back up to a usable level. And also, just a quick note here to keep in mind is that Contreras also had a pit stop issue. So everything that can go wrong for her this race is going wrong. Gasly and the 2 Red Bulls are just steaming up ahead. And I do believe that we are not very likely to catch them. We're going to be struggling here to, I think, even score points to some degree. As we still have 2 stops planned for Contreras and 1 more for Nyman. Nyman is actually looking kind of decent though, because as you can see, Behrman is pitting, Sargent was pitting. We also have Porsche that hasn't pit, Leclerc hasn't pit. And, well, as long as we can keep this gap as is, we should be fine. But it looks like Porsche and Leclerc is going for the 1 stopper, so we're going to have to make up a little bit of time to make this be sort of viable. But Contreras is getting the confidence back. That's going to be important. Nyman is enjoying peak confidence, so maybe not as bad as we thought, but considering Contreras again has 2 pit stops versus Nyman's 1, it's going to be a little bit of a difference in how they perform. But we'll still keep on moving them forwards. I don't think it's going to be much of a big deal. Nyman here, maybe with a little bit of DRS help, will have a bit of a better time getting past Stroll, and the same can probably be said for Contreras. But yeah, it's going okay so far. Not great, but honestly not as terrible as one might have expected. So we just finished Nyman's final pit stop, and she's currently running 9th, but is going to be running 8th once Contreras pits very, very soon. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. And Contreras should be pitting on this lap. It's just easier to do it like that, I think. Now, currently, every car ahead is running on very old hards. There's 15 laps to go, so Nyman should be able to close down at least some of these cars, as I can expect her to be reasonably quicker than the rest of these. We'll have to see. This was the out lap. They're running 28s for the most part. There's some 27s, but generally they're not running necessarily quick. Contreras apparently also did miss her pit stop, so also a little bit late. But yeah, Nyman now should be running fairly decent once we again just get temperature into these tires. 26.9s at the moment, and that is already just a second quicker. Norris is running another set of softs, so we're not catching him. But 15 laps, if we catch a lap here, we'd be able to get up towards Verstappen, potentially. So, let's see how that goes. Bottas pit's going to get out of the way. Stroll might pit too. He has very, very bad tires, so it's looking promising. Now, Contreras in 12th is going to have a bit of a harder time. I think we'll just turn her up to standard. That should be fine. But we'll have to see what we can catch there as well. But so far, it's not looking necessarily bad. 26.7, 29s, 28s. So yeah, we're getting 1.5 seconds potentially here each lap. So if we can get overtakes done quickly, then Nyman still stands a chance of potentially getting on the podium. We'll just have to see if we can keep it up till the end. That's going to be the big one. Nyman there does get an overtake done, so not much of a problem. Contreras, however, probably the best we can hope for is going to be a 10th place finish, which is disappointing, but unfortunately that's just how it be sometimes. As it turns out, I might have been a bit too hopeful on getting a podium here. But we're going to get Contreras back in the points, potentially even getting up to 8th. She's actually been flying, pretty much, so it's going a lot quicker than I anticipated. For Nyman, though, it's 11 seconds up to a podium. Most likely going to be a bit more than that, as what we're going to have to catch is Gasly. So getting a podium here is going to be, as I said, probably outside of reality. We also have Albon, who's running faster than us currently, so I think our main goal here now is just going to be defend against Bottas, and Verstappen is falling backwards as well, and it would be kind of hilarious if Contreras, over the course of these last 3 laps, ends up catching him. That would mean that we need to close down 8 seconds. Is it doable? Potentially, but it's going to be difficult, and I think we're going to have to risk going aggressive to get it done. We can also, of course, push fuel. But we're going to have to use the DRS to our advantage and get overtakes done in quick succession if we want this to happen. So I think we're going to go high risk here towards the end of the year and see if we can beat Verstappen. Once again, that should be DRS for us too, as we're ahead. So that does help closing it down. But the Ferrari DRS train here is going to be potentially a bit of a troublesome opponent. And Nyman here we can just put to deploy, full attack, and that should keep Bottas at bay. Let's see what we can do with Contreras and Ferraris and Verstappen. I don't know if we're getting DRS. We are. That should allow us to get one Ferrari on the next straight, and then we're just going to have to go full risk for the second Ferrari. But yeah, as you might imagine, I think Verstappen is probably a little bit outside our grasp. If we had a couple more laps, maybe. Norris wins. Nyman is going to come in 4th. Gasly 2nd, Albon 3rd. So, interesting top 3. But yeah, bit unfortunate here for Contreras that the strategy didn't work, even though we did get punted to the back of the grid. Did make a slight comeback, so yeah, not a great finish to the end of the season, but Nyman did a good race. Contreras probably would have done something similar if we put her on the same strategy. So once again, I'm getting hammered into me that lower smoothness, less is better, for sure. But yeah, that, I believe, secures the title for absolutely sure here. Probably shouldn't have skipped. But yeah, Contreras does win the title here with 21 points down to Verstappen. Nyman comes 4th. Russell 5th. Verstappen, Norris 2nd and 3rd. Gasly 6th, Leclerc 7th, Stroll 8th, Bottas and Albon snatches 10th place ahead of his teammate with that podium. The Mercs here, absolute shambles. Ocon does way better than Magnussen though. Sargent, the only driver to not score points. But yeah, Reese had a few interesting performances, particularly this episode. He did well at Las Vegas, but apparently I must have misremembered him scoring points because Behrman has outscored him. So that is what it is. As you can see here, unfortunately, no chance of catching Red Bull in the end with the incidents that we had. They scored a race win and a podium more than us, so it is unfortunate. We had the Leclerc stat here. Pole positions to win conversion, pretty bad, while Red Bull converted a lot better than we did. But yeah, I think we are going to do one more season here, but I am slightly uncertain if we want to end it on this. Honestly, I don't really want to, is the thing. I would love to get a proper women's constructors team with a two-man team here, but what I think we might do next year is that we promote Sano, because if we compare these two, Sano has 67 to 69 on the pace stats. That's pretty good. Does have low accuracy and control, which could lead to more incidents, but has high smoothness, which means that she will be fairly competitive. Now, Nyman, on the other hand, lower pace stats, better on the accuracy and control departments, but has low smoothness. So, generally, Sano will be quicker. She will be more... when she finishes, she will be scoring higher, but she will be more error-prone. But let's face it, even Contreras is error-prone with her stats, and, well, we know how that went. Adaptability up to 90 now. That does make me very, very sad. But I don't think we really have much of a choice there, honestly. So we'll have to deal with that. The F2 Championship results. Crawford wins. Martins comes second. Aaron third. Trident, Invicta, and Carlin the top three. Let's see, do we have any interesting names here? Not that I can remember. So the Red Bulls takes the title. Better go, we fought tooth and nail for it, and we achieved it. Drivers' Championship, we did win that. I'm wondering how the board feels about this, if I'm going to get yeeted. I would assume not, but who knows. Let's actually go and have a look at how they feel. I failed an objective. So, board confidence is still high. They're satisfying, but as you can see here, there is some disappointment. Marina Bay, Monza, Sao Paulo, and Yaz. We're doing well on objectives because we still have the previous objectives that we have completed, so we're actually fine. No need to be worried. But yeah, as I mentioned, I think we are going to do one more season, but if the car is completely dominant, I'm probably just going to turn it into two parts. Basically, first half season, second half season, a bit more of the condensed version, and I think that's just going to be better for longevity's sake, because we do need to cut down on how many different series I have running at once right now, because there's starting to become a lot of them. But if we can cut down on at least 2, maybe 3, then we could potentially add something else, some other gimmick, because again, I do want to do a maximum durability challenge and see if we can actually make a championship winning car. That's a little bit in the future. Hopefully get it done before 24 comes out though in this summer. So summer, it's probably gonna, I would assume it's going to come out in July again around the break, unless they speed it up, release it a bit earlier. But we shall see. But yeah, for the time being, let us just get the last bit of research done, the rest of the season finished, and then I'll allow you guys to voice your opinions on what we should do with our drivers. I think we're going to keep Contreras. Nyman was just scoring a little bit too little for us. I think we're going to take a little bit of a riskier driver there. That's most likely going to end up scoring more points, but also probably going to cost us more money because the crashes are going to be more expensive. But I think that's going to be okay. Hey, congratulations from Ferrari. We'll take that. Suspension research has been completed, and honestly, I think we'll just do another one. Or do I want to do side pods? With that, suspension should be fine, honestly. So I think we're going to do the same that we did with the chassis. Just focus a little bit on side pod, get a little bit of that extra top speed back. Apparently, we will not be reaching completion date, but that can easily be fixed with the magic of an engineer. So these projects here are not going to be finishing in time, I believe. What I could do is speed one of them up, like the chassis here, put 6 engineers on it. It'll be done in 7 days. That is enough that we can do another chassis project. So let's go ahead and do that. And also, I don't know if this is going to be enough, but 3 days of research, I'm willing to sacrifice that. But we'll see. We might be able to... I doubt it, but yeah, we'll try. We'll see if we can get a suspension research in there once that rear wing research is done. Probably also should have a look at what we're looking at in terms of, yeah, the cost cap. We're getting a warning. So cost cap currently, we have 2 million remaining. Okay, so we can do... Yeah, not much more than just one project done then. Because the month is going to tick over. That's going to have an effect on the cost cap remaining. So we've actually spent the entirety of it. Which means that we're done with everything in terms of research. Okay, so we do need to also get our technical chief a new contract. And I think we'll be switching around, as I said, these contracts at the start of next season. I think that's best. In terms of our driver development update here, cornering and braking, that's actually really good for Contreras. 3 points of cornering for Nyman. Really want to stay here, but again, that kind of tells you over the last month, we've gotten 3 points into the cornering. So, yeah, of course you raise your adaptability. Reactions going up as well, but yeah. It's so unfortunate. Do we want to keep Allison? He's not a bad choice, honestly. Let's face it, he is a little bit lacking on the chassis and suspension, but we can live with that. And what we could do is, of course, try and nab Vaca here. He would actually be interested, and it would weaken Red Bull. He only has 4 weeks left on his contract as well. So I feel like in this case, if we want to make absolutely sure that next season is the season that we're going to be grabbing everything that we get, the best that we can get into the position. And as you can see, the start date is going to be next season. So let's offer him this contract. It's not really a hefty increase in salary, but it's probably let's face it, I'm giving him more than you would probably need to get him. But I'm fine with it, honestly. It shouldn't be a problem. We have more than enough money where it isn't an issue. And actually, why did we need to pay him out? I thought his contract ran out. We could also go ahead and go all in here on the head of aerodynamics as well, if we really wanted to. Snatch up Balbo. I don't know how his contract is, but yeah, we could if we wanted to. I don't think it's going to be a big deal, though. But yeah. I think, as mentioned, that we are going to be fine next year. I don't think there's going to be any big issues. And as you can see, currently our pit crew is pretty much close to the maximum anyways. I'm going to quickly set this up though, so we don't lose anything over the course of this month. Try and maximize it a little bit, get a little bit of that pit stop time back. We're going to be losing a lot of this going into next year anyways, but we want to maximize as much as we can. So here's what we ended up with. We basically maximized as much as possible. In terms of getting our stats back, we're almost back to maximum in terms of our error chance. Decent enough car building. Fatigue is going to be slightly there at 7%, but it should take over to 0 into the new year. So that should be fine. And as you can see here, we have gotten our pace of time down slightly, so I'm happy with this. It's not a big problem. Yeah, Vaca has been hired for 2027. And we have been officially fined for breaching the cost cap. So honestly, if I want to be really, really cheeky here, I'd go ahead and remove the engineers from these projects, which we are gonna do. Can I confirm it? Yes, I can. It'll give us a little bit more of that research back, but honestly, I should have checked the cost cap before we did this, because once we actually reached the cost cap, we were not allowed to do any more researches. So this was basically the last thing we do this year, which is fine. The rear wing research here, pretty decent. Just like another nice little boost for next year. Should be fine. We have idle scouts. Honestly, they get paid so little that in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. Sano did also level up. Let's see here if we can figure out what. Guess his cornering went up to 68. So that's not bad. We'll take that. Chassis research has been completed, which should be also a minor boost. Engine cooling mainly, drag reduction, and airflow middle. But interesting that the research benefits show us as losing, which is concerning. Wind tunnel shut down for 5 days. I will approve that. I'm also going to go ahead, since you were kind enough to remind me, and refurbish. We actually have refurbished everything, so we don't need to. That's good. Style facilities, the operational facilities. Let's just go ahead and get a full refurbish here on everything going into the new year. Because why not? Even the boardroom. Team Hub refurbishment has been completed, which is always good. Going to be getting the suspension stem refurbish, which will give us a little bit better car parts for next year. Memorabilia has been refurbished. Get that morale and team attractiveness back. Internal concerns, no sign of structural damage, but still, it's not a big deal to just approve that, particularly when we don't have any projects running. Helipad, get a little bit back, get even more money. I'll see what the boardroom feel about that refurbishment. I assume they're happy. Yeah, team attractiveness, confidence gain, which might actually be slightly important. But yeah, this front wing here, this is a massive gain. This is what we use CFD time on. So the front wing now should be fairly competitive for next year. Toll center, making us earn a little bit more money. But yeah, I think that was it. We still have the side pods, but that should be every single research going into the new year. So that should be fine. DHL pit stop awards, we did win that one. Wheatley does not apparently enjoy his time here. Didn't like losing to Red Bull, I assume. But yeah, first and 14th championship, second in the constructors. Team rating remains unchanged, I believe. Board did, well, I lost a little bit of team principal rating since we didn't win. But the team rating got slightly improved. Well, at least individual stats there, so it's not bad, honestly. Side pods, again, I find it interesting that it tells us that we are losing research benefits. I don't think I've actually seen that before, but I guess we'll have a look at the board and see what the board says. Maybe reload the save just to be on the safe side. Regulation changes. Okay, pole position gives bonus points. We have the minor technical to airflow and cooling. Nothing much we can do there. We're also going to have a bit of a lower cost cap. That is fine. I'm just going to quickly save and reload so we can have a look at the research a little bit before we end this episode. And yeah. So yeah, let's just end this season by seeing what we did research-wise. So engine cooling, we're going to be getting benefits here all across the board for the chassis. Slight increase in the airflow middle, but again, the cooling and the drag reduction we can be very happy with. The front wing that we did invest CFD time into now has a pretty decent gain here for the airflow front. Also, the cornering ability for medium and low speed is pretty high, as well as the brake cooling. So very, very much something you will be happy with. We are lacking airflow sensitivity though from the rear wing. The rest has been given benefits. Side pods as well, about a 6%, 7% gain in the airflow for the middle part, which is again the one that's important. It helps the high-speed corners, engine cooling, almost a 10% gain, 10% gain of the drag reduction. The underfloor, again, small gains here, cornering, drag reduction in particular, but we are losing airflow sensitivity across the board, and that could potentially make it difficult to deal with cornering not really cornering, following next year. But I don't see that as a big hurdle for us if we, still manage to have the absolute best car. We could, of course, get bogged in midfield, potentially, but I'm hoping to avoid that, so we'll have to see how we perform. Brake cooling, airflow front, I'm really looking actually forward to getting next season's car made, but we'll leave that for the next episode, I think, although, yeah, we'll leave that for the next episode. Let me know what you think. Should we be giving Sano the promotion, replace Nyman? Or should we go ahead and, well, do something else? Let me know what you think. I do think that we need to get a proper championship here, but it is a bit unfortunate the way things ended up over the last few episodes. But still, I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I do hope to see you around next time. Bye bye.